Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip the whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Let's jump right on in. I'm Andy, and joining me is my life partner in all things, Minna.
So, do you know what I guess it's called a pet peeve? Do you know
Okay,
what that is?
a pet
Peeve.
peeve? No, I don't know what a pet peeve is.
It bugs me when people say they're busy,
Oh, okay, I hear that all the
and
time.
that includes you too.
Calling me out. Oh my God. When I'm actually busy.
Are you?
No, I could probably be more productive.
Well, yeah, okay. So you hang out with me long enough to know that being busy is not the same as being productive, and being productive is actually not the same as being that meaning that you have a lot of production or that you're successful. Right?
Mhm.
They're all different things. So you being busy just means you have something to do all the time. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
So, are you productive?
I try to be productive. I try to have production during the time I'm being productive. So why don't you let the audience know what is the difference? Like you said, I think everyone thinks they're busy because even when I'm trying to catch up, I just came back from a speaking gig from Kansas. And when I'm reaching out, hey, let's talk, I'm busy. I was like, okay, you got the whole week and you can't schedule 1 hour out. Oh, I'm so busy catching up. I was like, well, that's what calendars are for, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? When when you say you're busy, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you spend maybe 16 hours a day working on whatever it is that you're working on, and how much have you achieved? Are you actually doing what would push you forward to your goal?
It is true. It is true. Um, I have this. This is a shameless plug. I have a book that's coming out that Christy is helping me with, and it's funny because I was touching base with her because I'm trying to have it released October 1st. Because on my stage I say, "Hey, October 1st," even though I don't know if the book's gonna be finished by October 1st. I say October 1st is gonna be ready, and I'm touching base with Christy, and I say, "Hey, is it done?" Is well, there's still two things you haven't given to me yet. I was like, "Oh my God!" It's like 10 days left. So I did send it out. So I was productive today. I was send it out as long as I knew what I needed to do.
Well, so the other thing is that book was supposed to be done last year.
Or yeah, okay.
So that's the thing, right? When you have, you can be very busy doing a lot of things, but your output may not match where you're spending your time at. So there's a difference between whether you're busy and whether you're productive or not, and you're producing anything useful to you.
That is so true. So as the production expert, what are some tips you can share with our viewers?
Well, I guess what I how a lot of people, they have a lot of unread email,
Yes.
and that bugs me a lot because when you have like 30,000 emails that unread, you're never going to read it. Why don't you just dump it? So that's one thing. And you have older email, read it or not, if it's older than a month, just dump it. You're never going to touch it.
That's funny because I remember we had one friend and he used to brag, look at my numbers, it's red, and it's like 50,000 emails. That's how important I am. I said, well, if you're important, maybe you should read some of these emails.
Yeah, I mean, it's not important to you, then why do you bother? And
Exactly.
right, so that's totally useless to you. So dump unread email. And I guess one of the problems now we all have, social media, right? You're
Mm,
overstimulated. There's always something pinging you, something, notifications. All that is stimulating you in a way that we never had before as a kid. We're
that's
old
so
enough
true.
to not have phones when we grew
Yes.
up. So, and the overstimulation with social media is a thing. Is one of those FOMO things that people
Mhm.
talk about. And you don't think about that, even though you have FOMO, you fear of missing out, you're not really missing out on anything important to you or in your life. You're just missing out somebody's, I don't know, dinner or whatever it is that I'm missing out
Or
on.
the latest news that doesn't affect your life anyway, right?
Yeah, so one of the things that I do is that I actually turn off all my notifications on my desktop when I work. Even email, email
Mhm.
have this little icon
Mhm,
for
mhm.
your emails. You can turn that off, and it is very helpful. You turn it off. It would be even better you actually turn off the email, but sometimes you need it to work, so it's okay. You can leave it on, but turn off all your notifications so that when you're working, you're working. You're not just looking over your email and doing something else.
That is so true. That is so true. What about temptations,
Well, it's one of those things, right? Removing notifications.
Mhm.
Um, to change around a little bit, ice cream, right,
Mm.
is my temptation, is my kryptonite. So the way and it's not always good for me, so I try not to eat it. So the way to remove it out of my life is to not buy it,
Mhm.
right? Rather than you can't just buy it and leave it in the fridge and not touch it. That just not doesn't happen. If it's in the fridge, I'm going to eat it. So the way to remove the temptation, to resist the temptation, is to never have it. And it's the same for notifications.
I so agree. I so agree on that. And can people just jump in and just do all this? Like, what is one quick tip for people to just remove everything? Because that sounds hard to do.
Well, it's a kind of preparation thing, right? With
Hmm.
email or whatever app you have, Slack or I actually have a whole lot of those that I turned off already, but it takes time. So preparation is key. Before you start to work, turn everything off and just leave them off. So set your things, put everything in place before you start working, and then you'll be productive.
I love that. And all these things that we talked about causes one thing that we're going to talk about today. What is that?
Oh, burnout.
Burnout. That's right. All these things cause burnout. And our guest today is amazing. She's going to give you tips to how to prevent burnout even when you don't even know you're in it. We'll be right back after a few commercials. All right, strap in, folks. We're about to take a joyride through the fountain of youth. It's Annie Nam from Chronically Healthy Life. Ever wonder why some folks seem to age like fine wine, while others are more like a mold cheese that's been forgotten in the back of the fridge? It's like they got the energy of a Duracell bunny on Red Bull, while the rest of us are running on fumes. Now, you might think hitting the gym and munching on kale is the ticket to eternal youth. But sometimes it feels more like we're just speeding up the aging process. Picture this. You're on the treadmill, feeling like $1,000,000, and suddenly you look down and realize your knees sound like a bag of popcorn in the microwave. Not exactly the sound of youth, am I right? But fear not, my friends, because here's the kicker. It's not just about the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's all about those sneaky little stem cells playing hide and seek inside your body. At the age of 20, you got more of these bad boys than you can shake a stick at. But fast forward a few decades, and they're scarce as a parking spot in downtown Manhattan. But guess what? We got a secret weapon up our sleeves. Phototherapy patch technology without drugs. That's right, folks. With our stem cell activation patches, you can hit the rewind button on aging faster than you can say reverse aging. So if you're ready to reclaim your youth, look younger, feel stronger, and heal faster than a superhero with a side of espresso, then it's time to hop on board the rejuvenation train. Get your stem cell activation patches now at lifewave.com/chronically healthy life. And let's make aging look like yesterday's news. It's not anti-aging, it's reverse aging, baby.
And welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. I am very, very excited to introduce you to our guest today, Diana Behasa. Did I say it right? I guessed myself. When we were, as Annie and Minna told you, we're talking about burnout today. And when extreme burnout destroyed Diana's career as a chef, she realized hard work and passion are not enough for lasting success. To reclaim her health and start her dream business, Diana quit her job and moved to Hawaii. Sounds heavenly to me. Diana's workshops, retreats, and coaching programs help hardworking professionals with work smarter to avoid burnout, take control of stress, and achieve sustainable success. In fact, Lisa Nichols says Diana's insights as a 9/11 survivor, ex-investment banker, and single mom are food to my soul. Welcome, 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 Diana.
Oh, Christy, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. I loved hearing Andy and Minna's little bit in the very beginning. Perfect setup for what we're talking about today.
Oh, it's such a timely topic. I mean, everywhere I turn, I see burnout. I hear people the way they're talking. Some people are saying they're acknowledging that they're burned out, and others are going, you're really burned out, and they don't seem to know. But it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. I was looking at some recent articles about Forbes and how big of an impact it's having on business overall. Just it's not even just the immediate things that we think of with our health or with individuals, quote unquote, quiet quitting, but it's also when these people decide to quit and do something else, the loss of the training and the knowledge that happens in that company. So there's a huge HR cost. There's a huge talent acquisition cost associated with it. There's even a healthcare cost to it because a lot of people don't realize that chronic stress doesn't. Well, firstly, we all know that doesn't lead to a chronically healthy life, but it's something that actually that state of distress simply leads to more dis-ease.
Absolutely. I mean, I think everyone in the world has been so stressed out that they've just had a day where they just could not go to work. They just I've done that where I just couldn't go. I just call in sick because I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. And sometimes I think our society tends to glorify pushing through that or forcing yourself to show up even when you don't feel like it. And I think that there is something good about that, but there's a level of balance that we need to hit with pushing ourselves past the limit to the point that we actually get so sick or so burned out that we lose the things that matter the most to us. So when Minna was talking a little bit earlier about our priorities, I think a lot of times what I'm seeing with folks who are in burnout or who want to avoid burnout is some misalignment with their priorities and with what really, really matters to them.
Well, you've had firsthand experience with that. Let's go back a little bit to 9/11. That's quite some time ago now.
Yes.
But can you share your story? What happened to you?
Yeah. So I was a high school student at the time. I was a senior. And so just picture this. You're a senior in high school. It's the beginning of the year, right? It's early September. What are you thinking about? You're thinking, if you're a girl like me, you might be thinking about boys. You might be thinking about college. You might be thinking about what cute outfits you're going to wear for that first week of school. You're not thinking about a terrorist attack or some crazy thing like that. And that day really changed the way that I see the world in general, because I had been so caught up in things that other people told me were important instead of really what was important to me. And that day, when I didn't know if I was going to make it home to my family, if I was ever going to see my friends again, it became clear what really mattered and what was just the fluff. So for me, that has helped me to really look at and consider in my own life, like, when am I getting caught up in things that other people tell me is important versus what I truly believe is important? Where are my priorities getting caught up in what other people think for me versus what I truly think for myself?
That's a question everyone should ask themselves, because everyone, it's that, how many times are we doing things because our parents are telling us we have to, which of course, if you're a child, that's a different dynamic. But when you're an adult, really, do you really, you make your own choices and think about what you really, really want and want to create in your life rather than doing what you're told all the time. That's a big deal to come to that realization as a high school student.
Yeah. And, I mean, there are parts of it that were most certainly traumatic and scary.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I don't remember a lot of the day. So when people say things like, never forget 9/11, the truth is, for me, a lot of it is very hard to remember. And that is my subconscious brain keeping me safe from the experience, from reliving it and, whatever my subconscious brain thinks is safe. So it's been a really interesting experience to find means of healing even from that trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trauma. And then we get into trauma, and that's another huge, enormous topic. I wonder how that's connected too, which is sometime you'll have you come back and talk about how trauma is connected to burnout, because I'm sure they're directly connected. But for right now, let's stick to burnout. So then after high school, you went to work on Wall Street? Is
College,
that correct?
after college. So I went to
College.
school at the University of Michigan, got my degree in accounting and finance, moved back to New York to work on Wall Street, and I worked in debt capital markets, which basically is like a fancy way of saying I helped Fortune 500 companies issue bonds in the debt market. So I would work on these $500 million, $1 billion deals for companies like Walmart, for McDonald's, for Macy's, as they were issuing bonds so that they could open a new store or make a capital acquisition or do things like that.
Okay. And how long did it take you to burn out from that?
Well, that was a really interesting experience. I worked as an analyst, a banking analyst, for about 3 years. And by the end of it, I definitely felt disillusioned. It was clear to me that I loved business. I'm such a huge math nerd. But the thing is that I didn't really love helping these big companies make more money. Both my parents own their own small businesses. Like, they're both immigrants who had followed the American dream. Like, that just felt it felt wrong to be helping like the big guy as opposed to the quote unquote little guy. And so when the global financial crisis happened, for me, that kind of was like just another like wake up moment where I realized, like, okay, like, if this career is ending, like, what am I going to do next? And I ended up like asking myself, like, okay, well, should I go back to business school? Should I work at a hedge fund? Like, I was seeing all my colleagues lose their jobs. The banks were laying people off left and right. Like, everybody's investment portfolio was in the tank. And there was just so much stress and like fear in the market at that time. And so I was thinking about my next move, and I thought about hedge funds. I thought about all the practical solutions, but I heard from my intuition. My intuition told me, if you go back to school, it's going to be culinary school. And that made no sense in some ways, but I'd learned enough. I have a deadly peanut allergy. I learned through life to listen to that intuition when it comes through. And so I realized, like, okay, maybe this doesn't make sense logically to go from 6 figures to $10 an hour, but I'm smart, I'm hardworking, I'm passionate. I can do this. I can succeed in this field. So left Wall Street, walked away, and went into the culinary field, went right into the heat of the kitchen. I've had chances to cook with folks like Jacques Pepin. I've even had the chance to cook for President Obama when I worked at a Michelin-starred restaurant in San Francisco. Like, I've had amazing opportunities. And that was probably what led to the biggest case of burnout that I'd ever really experienced. Because I think before then, kind of like you were saying, when sometimes when we don't want to show up, like many of us who are highly successful, we've been taught and trained, like, never give up. Giving up is a bad thing. So we actually teach ourselves to push through. When our bodies are telling us that something is wrong, we ignore it. We don't pay attention to what's going on. We just keep going, because there's something that gets glorified about just forcing ourselves to do things that we don't want to do. And there is a level to which that is good. We need to have some self-respect so that we're doing the things that ultimately serve us. But there can be places where we're doing it to our disservice. And that was what I found when I was working. When I was working as a chef, at one point I was opening 9 restaurants in 2 different states, all on the same day.
Oh my gosh.
And as you can imagine, it was a little stressful.
Yeah. How do you even do something like that? I mean, you have like 9 phones going all at the same time.
It was a lot of planning and preparation. So the nerd in me and Minna, we would be like in the back end, like coordinating and planning and like making sure that all the things are lined up perfectly so that everything just comes all together and works well. But when you have that many different people and things and all the stuff, like, so many things can go wrong. And so I woke up that morning in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., noticed a lot of hair on my pillow, walked over to the mirror and saw a huge bald spot on the right side of my head here, about the size of a quarter. But I had how many people counting on me and waiting for me to go downstairs and to help open these restaurants. So I did what a lot of women, a lot of high performers do. I brushed the hair right over. I acted like nothing was wrong with me. I put the chef's coat on over the hives that I was breaking out in. And I went downstairs and I showed up for the people who were counting on me. And the restaurants opened. Everything was okay. And in time, I started to actually talk to some of my colleagues about what was happening for me, that I was breaking out in these hives, that I was, that I was losing my hair. And one colleague in particular, when I showed him my bald spot, which to me was very alarming, he was like, "Oh, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's totally normal. Just get the shots to the head. Your hair will grow back in a couple months. Don't worry about it." And I know that he was intending to allay my fears and my stress, but he said a word that for me, like, changed everything. And that was, "This is normal." And I started to ask myself, is this normal? Is it normal for me to be seeing so many doctors every single week? Is it normal for them to all be telling me that this is related to stress? Is it normal for me to have developed chronic illness, to develop autoimmune disease when I'm in my early 30s? Is this normal? And even more important than that question was the question that followed, which was, am I willing to accept this normal? And I realized I wasn't. I didn't want to just fix the symptoms. I didn't want to just stop breaking out in hives, to not have back pain anymore, to not have issues with my feet, to not feel pain in my feet. I didn't want just a solution that fixed the feeling of what was going on from head to toe. I wanted a head to toe transformation. And I realized that, there were so many areas of life where I was dissatisfied, right? And I realized, what if I could actually use this situation as something that transforms my whole life, right? And through that journey, I discovered, I was in a bit of a situation, but what I've learned to call them is situations. And when I say situation,
Love that.
I mean, we can be stuck in a pile of something that stinks and just sitting there and hang with the flies and talk about how everything is crappy.
Mhm.
Or we can look at what we're in as fertilizer, as manure, as fertile ground for new growth, right? There's so many nutrients and there's so much power and energy within that fertilizer to promote growth. And that was what I began to look at all of the different situations in my life as. And that really helped me just transform my life, get out of the burnout. I was able to transform my health. You can see I have a full hairline these days, which is a relief, especially even through postpartum, and there's a little bit of hair loss in that as well. So I'm proud to have my hair back. Proud to feel younger than I felt in my 30s, to have less pain, to feel in control of my health again. When doctors again were telling me, that basically the only thing that I could do was just, take medication to fix the symptoms, and from that too, I took leaps that I never expected. Owning my own business, right? That had been something I talked about for years, even when I went back, when I first went to business school. And it took me about 15 years to actually fulfill that dream. And following it actually led me to even bigger dreams that I didn't even know I had. I'm a total introvert, never ever thought I would be speaking or telling my stories or anything like that. And since then, this mission, this purpose has propelled me to become an international speaker, to publish my Manifest Your Dreams journal. So much has changed as a result of looking at this situation as an opportunity to transform.
I love that, because it's too easy to wallow in the situation and not ever let the seed grow. And yes, I love that. And I love that you didn't accept that as normal. It might be normalized in our society, but it's not normal. And I love that. That's amazing. Well, I would like to ask you, so I think we all know, generally speaking, what burnout is, but I think that you might have identified things that are like, you were telling me that people don't even know they're in burnout. Like, what are some of the things we should, other than, hair loss and our teeth falling out and hives breaking out and autoimmune diseases and everything else? What else?
Let's talk about that. I think that's a great question, Christy. So burnout is a state of chronic stress. It's like it's being stuck in a chronic stress cycle. And what's important about that, for us to understand how burnout then shows up, let's understand what stress does to our body. So when we experience stress, right, whether it's 9/11 or we have a deadline coming up or something happens in our family, our body naturally goes into fight or flight. It goes into survival mode in the presence of this stress. It thinks that there's something out there that's threatening its survival. Why this matters is because our body's function then starts to focus on our immediate survival, on getting through this short period of time, because we're not sure that we're even going to make it to tomorrow. So who cares if we can digest our food? Who cares if our immune system is working? Who cares if our endocrine system is working? Who cares if our digestive system is working? Because if we're gone tomorrow, none of that matters, right? What matters the most is that we have a lot of blood pumping to the heart, that we have our muscles tensed and ready to go, so we can make those quick moves. And what's interesting about that is those feelings can actually be addictive. So that there's something about that stress experience, right? Like there are some people, I'm sure you've heard it before, Christy, people who say they thrive under stress, right?
Oh, yes.
And there is something really exhilarating about that state. We can call it eustress. It's a positive state of stress where we actually are able to perform even better than our normal barometer. I don't know what the right word there is, but we're able to perform even better than normal, and that can be so addictive when we're into high performance, right? So the thing is, though, that the way that it kind of works is there are diminishing returns. I like to liken this to driving a stick shift car. I don't know if you've ever driven a manual car.
Oh yeah, this car that I currently have is my first automatic transmission.
Automatic. I love that. So when you're driving a manual car, right? And even if you have never driven a manual car, like I think you can still understand this. When you're driving a manual car, if you want to go faster, you hit the gas. But when you're in first gear, there's only so far that hitting the gas is going to take you, right? At some point, then you're starting to burn out the engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually beginning to destroy the mechanism versus really, really getting yourself faster and faster, right? So a lot of people, when they know that hard work is part of success, they think that working harder means more success. But that's not actually how it works. The way that it actually works, right, is that for us to reach that next level of success, we need to, just like when we're driving a manual car, we need to disengage from that gear. We need to take a step back, which feels very scary when we're used to hitting the gas, so we can engage in a higher gear and go faster.
Mm.
So a lot of times when I work with my clients, one of the things that they are very resistant to is that idea of like taking a break, right? It feels like breaks are unproductive. It feels like a break will put them behind, like it will slow them down, like they can't afford to take a break. But I want to talk a little bit, just to get back to the symptoms of what burnout looks like. So what happens when we're in this state of chronic stress is if our muscles are always tense, if our heart is always constantly beating too fast, our heart muscle is going to get overworked. Mm-hmm. Our muscles are going to end up with chronic tension, with pain, like the low back pain I mentioned, all those different things. Not only that, if our immune system has been shut down for a long time, on a regular basis, our immune function doesn't work the same way. So that's where a lot of autoimmune disease comes in. We notice issues with sleep, right? So what I'm saying is that a lot of times when we're teetering on the edge of burnout, our body actually gives us signals, and it just depends on how far you're going to let those signals go before you notice, hey, and wake up, say something's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So even with our endocrine system, a lot of you see more and more people talking about issues that they're having with their hormones or their digestive system, right? You see more and more people talking about these different things. And my belief is that it deals with, on a scientific basis, a lot of it comes from that chronic stress. So this chronic stress is affecting literally like every single part of our lives. And what I find for high performers is they're willing to just ride through that. They're willing to push through so many of those things that they might not even realize that they're actually burned out. So when you're noticing your sleep is a little off, right? Those are early signs of burnout. When you're noticing that maybe you're putting on a little bit of extra weight, or that your digestion just seems off, like you're having some indigestion or issues like that. When you're noticing it's harder to breathe, or when you're noticing tightness in your muscles, those are the early signs that stress is taking over. And when we notice those earlier signs and don't let them get into the bigger signs, it becomes easier to address it, because what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And you know what? How many people are, if they go for a massage or something, and the first thing that they do is someone's working on their shoulders and they're dropping because they don't even realize they're all like locked up and their neck hurts. And
yeah. I was that stressed out person who was so addicted to stress, because again, it releases chemicals and hormones in our body, which our body then begins to think it can't function without, in the same way that an alcoholic believes their body actually gets to a point where they can't function without alcohol. Mm-hmm. Our bodies begin to get into that state, and it actually becomes very difficult for us to get out of that. And so what I find a lot of times is, even though we know we need to take a break, a lot of people then still will look for other opportunities to stress them out. Like, I'm sure you probably know somebody who is like basically almost hunting for stress in the news. Like, who do you know that's like paying attention to the election right now that doesn't need to, has already made a decision about who they're going to vote for, and like really nothing else matters, and they're like caught up in what's happening and who's going to win and all these different things that truly like are just stoking that stress inside them.
Oh yeah, my dad was like that. He passed away in March, but he was that person. He called me, we're all gonna die from nuclear war, and I'm like, no, we're not.
If we are, I'm gonna enjoy my last few minutes.
Yeah, right? That's what I said. I'm like, if it comes to that, then hey, see you around. It's cool. But that he was constantly looking for something to complain about and stress out over. And he would freak out. He'd be talking to me on the phone and his voice would go up and escalate and yelling and run. And yeah, so that's exactly what you're talking about. Addiction
and stress kills. It's and I realized that when I was in my early 30s, I was like, if I keep on this path, I'm not going to make it very long. This path of hard work and passion without any balance is not a path towards success. It's a path to failure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I wonder if that's why so many, they talk about people who retire and then they die very shortly after that. That seems to be connected to me because, like they never learn how to just breathe and take a step back.
Yeah. And also perhaps like a lack of purpose in their next phase, right? Like just because we retire doesn't mean that that we have no more value or that there's nothing left for us to go after in life. And I think my hope, at least, is to have things where I'm savoring life to the fullest, till the very last drop. Like, we only get so much time in life. And I learned that at a very, unfortunately, young age because of 9/11. I saw people, I was surrounded by people with far worse stories than I've had. But I saw life taken without rhyme, without reason. And it made me kind of realize like, wow, I only have this one life. And if I don't make the most of it, if I don't enjoy it while I have it, like it will just slip right through my fingers.
Exactly. That's so true. I always say life is both too short and too long to waste it on things that aren't making you happy or,
Yeah. And, I think that's a great question for us too, right? It's like, think for yourself, like, if you knew you only had one day left, if you knew that you didn't actually have this whole full day, if you weren't sure that you'd make it home, if you weren't sure that you'd ever see your family again, like what would be the things that would truly matter to you? And how many of those are you prioritizing, as Minna was sharing earlier? How many of those things are you prioritizing versus the things that you're getting caught up in that don't actually matter to you when you have that clarity? And I never wish a near-death experience on anyone, but I do wish it's clarity upon everyone.
Yes, that's something definitely to mull over and really contemplate, because that's a deep question. And I think our answers might surprise a lot of us.
Yeah.
Well, how can we then, you say we can boost our energy and beat burnout in 15 minutes a day? I want to know about that. I have 15 minutes I will devote to that.
So I have my journal. It's called the Manifest Your Dreams Journal. It looks like this. And you can get it on Amazon. And I created this system for my clients originally, all high performers, super successful people who feel really busy and don't feel like they have a lot of time, right? And I was like, fine, you got 15 minutes? Let's work with your 15 minutes. And again, because I'm a math science person, never in a million years did I think I'd be a speaker and a life coach. First time I ever heard about a life coach, I thought that was a fake job. But what I found in my in my own journey, in my own transformational journey, is that there's actual science to achieving higher levels of success, and it can be very counterintuitive to what other people are teaching. So one of the steps is meditation, and I talk about how to use meditation from this perspective of allowing it to reduce our stress, which is definitely something related to the burnout, but also in terms of actually working with the law of attraction. But a lot of people, they tend to think that you need like hours of meditation in order to calm down. We can literally feel better with just a minute of deeper breathing, of paying more attention. So, take a minute right now, just notice your breath, like in through your nose, out through your mouth. You get really centered into your body, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And when you have more clarity, when you have more relaxation, all of us know we make better decisions when we're relaxed and have all of our mental capacity, rather than when our mind is running around like this. So resetting our mind with those micro meditations, that's one of the steps in my journal, 5 minutes worth of meditation combined with visualization. Another one of the steps is gratitude. So I tend to be as like since birth, pretty much. Like I remember my mom has a photo of me from when I was like at Disneyland holding a little Minnie Mouse doll, and my face, let's just, like I didn't even know that you could have RBF at like 6 years old, but like I just looked miserable. I was so angry and
RBF?
had this, like resting bee face.
Oh,
so
Disneyland was a situation for you, huh?
Yeah. Maybe it was hot. Who knows, right? But I had a naturally negative mindset, and I always thought when people would talk about gratitude that it was just this like fluff that didn't actually help people or work. But what I've realized is there's a scientific reason for practicing gratitude. When we're allowing ourselves to pay attention to all of the negative things in our life, like all the things that are missing, all the things that are going wrong, our brain actually becomes programmed by moving down those pathways of this is wrong, this is missing, to look for more things that are wrong and missing. And so working with gratitude is actually about rewiring our brain to seek out success, to seek out opportunities, to seek out hope and positivity, versus getting mired in that stuff that stinks. And so part of my 15-minute system is to work with gratitude in this very strategic way. We don't have all the time in the world to talk about that, but you can read a little bit more about it inside the Manifest Your Dreams journal. Or if you're curious, you can even book a free consultation and we can talk about how to use gratitude even more strategically. Because again, for me, right, it just seemed like this fluff at first. And now what I realize is, oh no, there's a scientific reason to do this. And there's actually a strategy, a proven strategy for using gratitude to get more of what you want, whether it's more clients, more money, more of literally anything. Meditation, the third step, I actually combine with visualization, which is about which is a peak performance technique that many Olympic athletes are using, right? So before they ever even step into the pool or before they even step onto the track, they're visualizing themselves making every single move perfectly, winning the gold at the very end, right? They see that. And the more that they actually mentally rehearse that, the more that picture then becomes real in their mind. Because one of the things that's very cool about visualization, that also can seem like you're getting your head stuck in the clouds. But what I've realized when I looked into the science of it is that that's actually the most effective way to communicate with our brain. Our brain thinks in pictures. If I were to say door to you, Christy, you wouldn't see the letters DOOR. What do you see?
It's on my front door.
Yeah, you see a picture of your front door, right?
Yeah.
So the most effective way for us to communicate what we want is through a picture, right? And many of us, instead of doing this effectively, we're saying, I don't want more stress. I don't want more sickness. I don't want more problems. Yeah. But our mind actually has no photo for no. When I say stress, no stress, you put up an image in your brain of stress. Right. When I say no illness, you bring up an image in your mind of illness. So Absolutely. What we want to do instead is work strategically with visualization so that we're actually looking at what it is that we really want instead of what we don't. And then
Well-
our very last, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You know, I think one of the QR codes that's up on the screen is for your book. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And
so
the other-
Manifest Your Dreams is right there. Yep.
And what's the other one for?
For a free consultation. So if you want to know a little bit more about how to work with just 15 minutes, how to leverage science to achieve more of your dreams, this is really something Minna was talking about earlier. I was very inspired by what she was sharing, but it's not about having more time. It's not about having more energy, which is what many people who are going through burnout or feeling overly stressed think. What it is about actually focusing, right? Because when we have light energy in a room, it just fills up the room. But if we were to take that same light energy and focus it, we would have a laser. And lasers have the opportunity to cut through steel beams. So it's not that you need more time. It's not that you need more money. It's not that you need more energy. It's that you need more strategic focus.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, so to your free consultation, and then they can find you on Facebook and Insta. Savor Life with Diana. Excellent. And your website,
SavorLifeWithDiana.com.
Wonderful. This is amazing. This is a very important topic. And I feel energized and less burned out just talking to you. So thank you for that. All right. Everybody stay tuned. Coming up next is our biohacking tip of the week.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So in the biohacking episode this week, I figured we would try something more sweeter. So most people love chocolates. We love chocolates. But most of the chocolate bars that you buy from the store most likely will have some sort of preservatives or additives to it that you don't want. So, and they're expensive. So you can actually make it yourself. What you need is something like chocolate chips. So what I have here is dark chocolate chips, organic, and I have about a pound here. So the first thing you want to do is set this onto a double boiler to melt it first. All right. So while we're doing that, what else we have here is what you want to go into the chocolate bar. And chocolate bars can be really fancy nowadays, right? And you can have different types of fruits, different types of nuts, cayenne pepper, all sorts of things you can do to it. And it's up to your imagination what you want to do to your chocolate bar. So for mine, what I have here, I have some chopped up macadamia nuts. And so first of all, what you have to do, you need some type of a baking pan and lined it with parchment paper. And you want to actually spread this across the pan somewhat evenly. Okay. And I have some white mulberries, and these are organic, and I bought it from Amazon. And chop those out too, and line up the bottom of the pan. And you want to save a few of the mulberries and a few of the other berries, and whatever you want, save them for top, just to make it look prettier. And what I have here, I have some goji berries, and they are also chopped up. Goji berries are really tart, so you probably don't want to use too much of it, but they're actually very delicious with chocolates. So again, line it up, make sure it's spread out evenly. Now what else I have here, I saved some of the whole white mulberries and whole goji berries, so those will go on top at the end. But while the chocolate is melting, when the chocolate is melted, you also want to add about half a cup of protein powder. You can do, I have here, this is a strawberry flavored protein powder. You can do chocolate, or you can do whatever your favorite flavor is. And also 3 cups of organic coconut oil. And when the chocolate's melted, I'm going to add these in and mix it. And then I'll come back and show you what to do. All right, so now that the chocolate is melted, I've added in the coconut milk and the protein powder, so it's nice and smooth. All you have to do is just pour it into the baking sheet. So when you make the chocolate bar yourself, you have control of the ingredients. Goji berries is great for your immune system. Mulberries is high in antioxidants. So is chocolates if you have the right ones. And you notice I didn't add any more sugar to it, so this is going to be a little bit tart, but delicious. So spread this out. If you want it thicker, then just use a smaller pan. All right, just kind of like that. And you want to make it prettier, you can top it with some of the berries that I saved before. You can even do like edible flowers or whatever you have in your backyard just to make it look prettier. Now, and that's it. All you have to do is stick it into your fridge and let it sit for a few hours until it hardens up, and then you take it back out, break it up, and there goes your chocolate bar. And that's it for this week, and I'll see you again next week.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So I forgot to tell you that the chocolates, you probably want to keep them in the fridge because they tend to melt a little easier than.
Well, they don't have the
store-bought
preservatives,
chocolates.
but we do actually make and eat what we show on biohacking, because a lot of people say, oh, you just make it, but is it edible?
Well, I just ate it. So it's gotta be edible, right?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But anyways, what do you thought of Diana?
I like her. She's like me.
She is, but she's a little bit of like both of us. She talked about manual transmission, talked about cars, or she touched my heart. She talked about the RBF, which is hilarious. I was laughing when she said that.
You know, you could actually swear on our show. I don't really care.
And situations. How many of us run into that? And
A lot of times.
yeah, and it's so good what she gets people to realize those situations that we all run into, and it's normal, right? Even though highly successful people run into it all the time, it's about matter of how do you deal with it after you run into it, right?
For sure. So let's wrap it up. Who do we have next week?
So next week we have Greg Stewart, so make sure you don't miss that. Join us here every Friday at 7 p.m. CST. You can watch past episodes at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network, or on our YouTube channel at Chronically Healthy Life.
And if you'd like to know more about what we do and how we can help you live a chronically healthy life, visit us on our website, chronicallyhealthylife.com.
Also, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions about our show, please comment on our Facebook page, Chronically Healthy Life, or email us at anything@chronicallyhealthylife.com. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.